You're listening to the Way of TBL's official podcast, Truth Talks with Sam and Alex.
Join us as we explore all things truth, beauty, and love. Welcome, friends, to episode 3. And today we'll be speaking on the topic of presence and how presence produces pleasance.
I love that word. I love that word so much. I came across it just the other day, and it perfectly describes the result and byproduct of someone who is present within themselves. And we're not living in a very pleasant world, are we, at the moment?
No, we're not. People are very disconnected, really, not only from the world, but from themselves. You know, people are so caught up in their mind and always thinking about past events that have happened or future events that are to occur, and they seem to forget to just be present in the moment. And because of that, they lack the stillness. They're always just so busy mentally.
Yeah.
And you see it in the way that they speak and the way that they carry themselves and how agitated they can get so easily, right? And really, a lot of the times, they will be operating out of fear as well.
Yeah. And all of that produces an individual that is lacking in grace, an individual that is not truly self-aware of their feelings, their emotions, their circumstances, their immediate surroundings. You know, you see it in the way people drive. You see it in the way that people behave, the way that they move, the way they walk. All of these little micro expressions in their face when they're speaking with you. If you're paying attention and you're observing, you'll see this in people. And all of that produces a very unpleasant state of affairs on a worldwide scale as a collective, and unpleasant individuals that fill it. And it's because they lack the presence that is required for an individual to be graceful, to be pleasant. And life is already so challenging and so difficult, isn't it? We make it even more so when we are unpleasant, when we are impatient, when we lack the desire to be understanding, to be compassionate, and to empathize with others and their struggles. We're so focused on ourselves when we are not present with what is most important.
And really, we're operating very unconsciously, and a lot of the times on autopilot without even realizing it. Like you mentioned with the people on the road, you know, this is something that I notice all the time. You know, people are just, they are not, they're not concerned with people around them.
Yeah.
They are more so just concerned about themselves, and you see it in the way that they drive when the first person at the traffic lights is just sitting there and they go off in their own, you know, they start daydreaming or whatever it is, and you see the light goes green and they're just still sitting there, and there is this line of people behind them. And again, it's like, oh, okay, they just didn't notice the traffic light, or they were just sitting there and waiting. But it's like, it's not just that. You go off into your own space because you're not being present. When you're driving, you need to be present because you're not the only person on the road.
Yeah.
You know, I get it every morning when I'm taking my girls to school and we have to cross over this main road, right? And there's no traffic lights here. There's just this little intersection bit that you have to wait in the middle of the road and wait for a clearing to cross over. And I just see it so many times that somebody will wait, and they will wait till like the last second that there has already been so many spaces that they could have gone. And then they will cross, and they will cross so slowly, and they will go right to the middle of the road where there's actually space for two cars to go past. And
Yeah.
it's just like, are you serious? Like you just don't care about anybody that is behind you. Like, there is this line of cars.
Who are you telling? I mean, if for anyone listening that is living in Atlanta, like, you know what people are like. Like, people in Georgia don't know how to drive. Seriously, I don't know what it is, but people are just they're on some other stuff when it comes to driving, and so it's because of the lack of awareness, the lack of presence that they have within themselves. All of the suppressed, repressed, and unresolved internal conflict of the mind. And so there's no energy, there is no space for them to be able to deal with what is going on in the here and now, because they have their attention on all of that mess that they know they need to sort out and resolve, but they simply have not given the time or the energy to doing so.
That's right.
And so that produces a very unpleasant individual, manifesting unpleasant circumstances for themselves and for others. Anyone in customer service knows exactly what we're talking about. And I salute you. If you work in customer service, you have you have something that very, very few people have, and that is patience to deal with that kind of unpleasantness. Because people are dealing with their problems, and they lack the empathy to understand that you're there to help them. You're there to give them what they need as fast as they want it. And so you see that front and center. I have worked in customer service for a vast majority of my life when it comes to working different jobs. Customer service has you seeing the very real circumstances that people face, the reality of the fact that people are not present with themselves, and you see it in our relationships as well, in circumstances and situations with our partner. At times we find ourselves feeling the lack of presence of our significant other, and that seems unpleasant to us. The way that they interact with us, the way that they express themselves at times may be a bit thoughtless, may not be as mindful as we would like for certain situations or conversations to be. Again, it's because of internal conflict that is suppressed and unresolved. Things that go unaddressed because we haven't given ourselves the time to take a step back and be fully present in the here and now with what needs the most attention. That's all presence is. Presence is allowing ourselves to take a step back and fully feel into the here and now, and remember what is most important, and then start categorizing and organizing what is most important to us.
It's becoming conscious in that moment, and
waking up from your slumber.
When
mentally.
we're in pursuit of wanting to live a conscious life, it really begins with presence, because you are becoming conscious in that moment. You are being grounded, and you are aware of where you are and who you are with. And instead of worrying about the past or the future, you are tapping into the here and now, which allows you at the same time to tap into intuition. Intuition is only accessed in the now. You must be present, as well as the absolute truth is only accessed in the here and now.
Yes.
And go on.
Yeah, and what does that produce within a person? It produces pleasance.
Yeah.
And what is Pleasance? Pleasance is someone with grace, someone that moves and carries and expresses themselves with ease. Again,
and
this
right,
person...
there is stillness within the body.
Yes, you took the words right out of my mouth. This person is still within their mind, still within themselves. They may not be the life of the party, but and they could be if they choose to be. They can be if they choose to be. But even if they're not, you notice them. You feel them. You feel the way in which they're interacting with you, and you remember them.
There's this calm and peace that you
their entire aura, their entire vibe, their energy signature lingers in your mind for days afterward, weeks afterward even. And you're like, who was that person? Even if you didn't fully introduce yourselves to each other, even if you took their order at a restaurant or served them in one way or another at their job, if they were a customer, filling out paperwork, you remember how present they were with you, how they spoke to you and expressed themselves with you. It's a sense of ease. They have a level of grace that is unique to them.
Energy is felt, and you
observe the impact they had on you.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, how they made you feel. And that's the value of Pleasance. Because guess what? That person is also stressed out about certain things. That person is also possessing a level of anxiety with regards to certain circumstances and situations that they are experiencing in life. We all do. We are all fighting these internal battles of consciousness within ourselves. And yet, they're still able to communicate and behave themselves with grace, with ease. They are smooth.
You're not allowing the challenges to be what guides you throughout your day. You're not allowing the mind to just run off and create assumptions
and overwhelm you.
Yes, and overwhelm, exactly.
And when you are present, you do not allow for anything to overwhelm or overpower you. You take back and reclaim your spiritual power, your emotional power, your mental power when you are present. And that produces a pleasant individual that manifests pleasant experiences and circumstances for others. And their relationship with all of existence is impacted for the better every single day. They make that choice to be present and to be pleasant as a result.
And I think as a parent, it is very important to be present with your children. Now, whether you have children or whether you can think back to your own childhood with your own parents, you will know whether your parents were present with you or not. And in being present with your children, they will actually listen to you because your children can feel that energy from you. You're not playing around. They can't just do what they want and you're going to just allow it because you are too caught up in everything else that you're thinking about. No, you will be present with your children and they will respect you for it, and they will listen, and they will form this bond with you that is such a beautiful bond because you have this mutual respect for each other. They feel safe with you because they know that you are actually listening to them. When they have things that they are concerned about, that they want to speak to you about, they will speak to you about it because they know that you are there to listen. and to
Yes.
be there for them. Yeah.
Your response to them is pleasant. Children are the most unpleasant things. They are the most unpleasant little creatures at times. And although they can be, when they feel your response to them, not your reactivity, but your response to them, when they sense and grow accustomed to your ability to respond to their unpleasantness, they build trust with you.
Yeah.
They feel comfortable with you as their parent or father or mother figure, and they feel safe. They know that they can express themselves freely with you. And isn't that something that every parent wants?
Absolutely.
For their children to express themselves freely with you, to not feel they need to hold back because of the way in which you will react. The unpleasant conversations, the, at times, potentially embarrassing conversations that can ensue with your children.
Yeah.
Especially when they start becoming curious with regards to more adult themed conversations as a teenager or young adult. We would never want our children to hold back with regards to what they would like to express to us, but that has to come first and foremost from a pleasant parent.
Yeah.
That creates pleasant experiences and conversations that are memorable. When that child looks back on the conversations they had as a kid, as a younger child, when they grow older, they remember that they can come to you at any time for any reason.
And you were teaching them to be present also. And that's really important because this is where it ultimately stems from. You know, children not being heard by their parents, right? Presence allows you to be still. It allows you to be a good listener. And yeah, we grow up and become adults, and depending on that example that we had as children from our own parents, it will then, you know, we learn from our examples, right? So yeah, that we carry that through for ourselves as well. And a lot of the times we need to work through a lot of these things and become aware of them as adults, because most of our parents are not aware of these things, and that's okay. You know, we are all here on our own individual journey.
Yes.
And when we become responsible adults, it is on us to learn these things, to grow and develop in a way that we can help the younger generation.
Yes. And what is responsibility but our ability to respond to life?
Yeah.
That is one of the various definitions we give to that word. There is a lot in that word that we can unpack and define. And one of them is absolutely a measure of our ability to respond to life.
Yeah.
And that's actually going to be our next episode. We are going to touch on the topic of responsibility and how one must be sensible to respond effectively, successfully, and accurately with regards to the most important things in life. But yes, when you become present, you become pleasant, and you are able to respond to life in the absolute best way possible.
Yeah. And some ways of remembering to be present, because just with all things that we learn, we may need to have some practices to begin with to remind ourselves of how to do whatever it is that we are learning to do. And with time, the more you practice whatever it is that you're trying to learn, whether that be a musical instrument, whether that be a language, whether it be something like being present, we must have practices to begin with, and then it just integrates with us and we embody it eventually, and we are just then present with everything that we do, because ultimately that's what we want to that's what we want to reach, right? Being able to be present in every moment. And that is how we live a conscious life. We are being conscious all the time. We are not only being conscious at certain times, it is throughout our entire day. No matter what we're dealing with or who we're speaking to, we are able to remain present and conscious at all times. And one way that I had discovered early on, and it's about grounding yourself, right? It's about grounding yourself in the here and now and remembering, okay, so I'm here, where am I? Look around, see your space, you're using all of your senses. What can I see around me? What can I hear around me? Am I able to taste anything? Are you drinking a coffee? Are you eating? What can you feel? Using all of your senses, stopping, any other thoughts that are trying to come through. You are just focused on everything that is around you in that moment. And that is a really great way of grounding yourself and becoming present in the moment. It's a form of stillness. Yeah.
Yeah. And again, the essence of the practice is what is most important. And the essence of the practice you take with you. You carry with you throughout the rest of the day. In the same way, when you, as you mentioned earlier, are learning a language, you take lessons, but what happens when you have mastered that language? You don't take lessons anymore. You just speak it. You speak it and you have conversations with everyone else throughout the day. If you're in another country learning that language, that's your practice. Your practice is living life with that language now. And it's the same with any spiritual practice or any habit that you want to integrate. You transcend the practice and you embody it. And I feel that a lot of people can get hung up or stuck on certain practices, and if they don't practice a certain ritual or perform a certain action
at that time,
at that specific time, for that length of time, at that place, in this specific way, then their entire day is ruined. They allow for that to become their identity, and they limit themselves to the practice instead of focusing on taking the essence of the practice wherever they go.
And embodying it. That's right.
That's the most important thing. Yes. What is the point of taking 15 minutes to be peaceful and present with yourself, and then being unpresent, and then lacking presence throughout the rest of the day? That defeats the purpose.
It does. And just again, like another practice is meditation, right? Meditation is another form of stillness and quieting the mind to become present. That is what meditation is about. And meditation is another great practice to begin with. However, like you said, we shouldn't get hung up on it having to remain a practice. We strive to live a meditative life, which is a life of presence.
Yes.
A conscious life. I love it. It just it all comes together so perfectly.
It does. Yeah, when you practice being present, you, as a byproduct, as a result, become a pleasant person in society. When you move through life, you do so with grace, with ease, and you are smooth, as they say, because that is just who you are. Even the most mundane of things, like going to the store and speaking with the clerk when you're checking out your food, for the things that you're buying.
Yeah.
You touch everyone with that.
You do.
There's a little something. Yeah. They
become a little more pleasant to themselves.
Yeah.
That's a ripple effect, isn't it?
Yes, you leave your mark on everyone and everything. There's a little something in your eyes, in your touch, in everything about you. Your consciousness leaves its mark on everyone and everything. And it all starts with being present. And then you become pleasant.
That's right.
And so, yes, that is ultimately what we want to achieve in order to move into creating the life that we want to live. From that place, from that space, we will create the life that we truly want to live and enjoy it fully.
That's right. We appreciate you joining us, and until next time,
may you embody the way of TBL today in your own way.